Belated Happy New Year. I probably sound a bit awkward right now since this is my first ever voiceover, so bear with me and I'll try to make it as painless as possible. Time really does fly. I still remember boarding that flight home when COVID exploded in Europe back in March 2020 like it was yesterday. And here we are now, 3 weeks into 2022. Since it's still technically the start of the new year, I thought I would take this opportunity to review my 2021, reflect out loud, and throw in some clips I never got to use from my video stash. After deciding to prolong my stay in late 2020, I swore to myself that I would squeeze the most out of this new chapter of life and simply enjoy it to its fullest. Although many plans didn't play out how I anticipated them to, the year actually turned out to be one of the most memorable years for me. In 2021, pretty much everyone in my immediate family had some health-related scare, and it completely freaked me out. My family, especially my parents, have always been the most important thing in my life. People I simply cannot even think about living without. They are my best friends, and I share everything with them. The series of events really reminded me how fragile we humans can be, and just because they're my superheroes doesn't mean they're invulnerable. So I felt beyond blessed to be able to spend extra months with my family, cherishing even more than before the most ordinary things like my mom's hugs, our brunch or dinner dates, and daily walks with our dog. Even the most random conversations with my dad and days spent just chilling became my favorites. The older my parents and I collectively got, the more I saw their human side as opposed to their superhero fronts, and the more grateful I became for the life they worked so incredibly hard to provide me with. 2021 saw that shift from a gradual to a rapid change in my mindset of originally being independent to wanting to become fully dependable. Then there's the people I call friends. As wacko and irritating as they are, I know I can count on them being there when I need a hug, a good laugh, or just a drink or two. Even though they occasionally make me want to bury myself out of embarrassment, without their company and love, I wouldn't have enjoyed camping under the stars after a 15-hour hike, getting absolutely torched by the sun at the beach, or joining random protests as much as I did. At the same time, I started tightening my friend circle and became very selective and intentional with who I spend my time with. This year, I really started prioritizing my mature relationships over investing time to establish new ones. 2021 was basically the people I love and love me doing the things we love together. This kind of brings me to the adventures of 2021. All the extra time I now suddenly had on my hands after deciding to stay was used very wisely, if I must say. I hadn't realized how much I had missed the mountains, the sea, and just time spent under the blazing sun doing some sort of activity or sport until I moved to the flattest country in the world. As a result, every few minutes I had was spent in the fresh air, trying not to die biking uphill or lifting some weights in the gym. You could count on me being either on my way to, in the middle of, or planning another trip to the mountains, cycling, or a meetup with friends at the gym. I even completed my first ever triathlon this year alongside two of my uncles, which I'm very proud of and hope to be able to do more of in the future. For the rest of spring and summer, my friends and I practically ended up either going camping, hiking, or both one weekend after the other. We would be out the house 1 minute after work on a Friday, camp out for the rest of the weekend, surviving on the tiniest amount of sleep until we had no choice but to return to our duties on Monday again. And occasionally, if we could be bothered to get up before the sun threatens to turn us into human jerky, we'd sneak a morning out at the beach just swimming and sunbathing. It wasn't just nature I missed. Oh my, the food. The the taste, the smell, and even the touch of the foods I grew up with. One of the perks of being home was that I got to eat like the world was about to end. And let me tell you, I ate and ate and ate. You'd be shocked by the amount of food I'm willing and able to consume in a meal. This year was also a year full of self-discovery and first experiences. I started learning new languages even though I still struggle with the ones I'm supposed to already know, and invested into long-term language learning programs for the languages I wanted to improve in. I interned in a startup, realized that it wasn't for me, and then landed a job in a completely different industry while still doing part-time tutoring. I messed around with editing software after I could no longer stand the amount of footage I had just lying around, which then sparked the whole YouTube idea again. Meanwhile, because of COVID, university was entirely online. I do love the flexibility of remote learning, but lectures were in ungodly hours, and it's not the best for conducting clinical interviews or trying to finish group work when every member was in a different time zone. So after struggling to stay motivated, I decided that I wasn't going to continue with my major classes online and spent the year just doing a bunch of minors and electives from other programs, which was actually super fun since I got to explore the different disciplines and I had the most flexible timetable. By that, I mean it was perfectly aligned with my work and sporting schedule. There are about 24 more examples I could tell you, but then we'd be here forever. So maybe one day I'll share with you my goals for 2021, the ones I actually completed and the ones I'm still working hard towards. This process of trial and error was hard at times, trying to juggle work, university, time with family, friends, and myself while trying to experience the unknown, all during a pandemic. 24 hours never seemed quite enough. Sometimes I felt that I was just fumbling about in the dark and couldn't figure out where I was headed. I suppose what I'm saying is, it can take more than a few tries to find what you like and don't like. And for the record, there's no end in this journey. We continue to learn and develop every second. And you know what they say, if you don't try it out, how do you know if you like it or not? We will always gain and lose something in every decision we make. That's just life. We can't all follow the same instructions and walk at the same pace. It's okay to feel lost and anxious at times, since you never know what life might surprise you with next. But that shouldn't stop you from enjoying every moment and doing things that make you smile. As sad as it is, I had to say goodbye. It's not that I don't love living in Amsterdam, because I do. But I still have to fight back to seeing my dog send me off and giving my mum and dad that one last hug. After returning to Amsterdam, I was blessed to be able to pick up from where I left off. It felt good to finally be back on campus and actually converse with others face to face. I got my part-time job back, working at the Dutch clothing store, and of course continued doing overseas projects. I found a climbing spot right next to my place and tried to make the most of our community gym. And naturally, I cycled everywhere, as you would. I settled back in and found my routine again, enjoying living in this beautiful city with my weekly grocery shops, lectures and tutorials days on campus, and shifts at the store. I look forward to every brunch, coffee, or park date out with my friends, soaking in the sun when it finally decides to show itself, appreciating the streets full of stunning architecture and making the best of gloomy rainy days, which unfortunately was quite often. 2021 ended on a very high note. After nearly 2 years of not seeing them, I could finally visit my grandparents for Christmas and New Year's. And honestly, I wouldn't trade spending the day watching Gran bake, an evening relaxing with a book together in the lounge, or mornings I attempt for Phil to contribute to the general knowledge crossword Gran and Granddad always did, for anything in this world. Despite some obstacles, moments astray, and of course COVID, 2021 was kind to me. And if I had to describe this year in 3 words, it would be growth, healing, and love. I don't know what 2021 was like for you, but I truly hope it was a year full of everything you dreamt of.